Stay tuned for Airgun Detectives.
Welcome to a special episode of Airgun Detectives. I'm your host, JC, and today we're going to show you how to tune the clean brake trigger. But before we get into that, do me a favor if you hadn't already, hit that subscribe button down in the corner. Won't cost you anything, it's absolutely free, but it really helps support the channel. Also, check out my website, www.airgundetectives.com. On that site, I got t-shirts, I've got these Generation 2 bipods, I've got hats, I got some silhouette targets that are pretty much thinning out right now, but I also have some inventory. You might even see this show up on there. You never can tell. So I have one-of-a-kind stuff. I put it up there. When it's gone, it's gone. But it helps. I recycle it, and that gives me funds to purchase a new item so we can review something different. Anyway, so check that out. All right, back to the subject on hand. The clean brake trigger. Sometimes they don't even refer to that, but that's a common Crosman Benjamin trigger. You're going to see that obviously right here in the, this is the Crosman Magfire Ultra. It's in the Elite. Remember the Benjamin Vaporizer? That's the trigger. The Mayhem, the Benjamin Steel Eagle, the Benjamin Summit, the Benjamin Trail, not the XL, but just the regular Trail. The Benjamin Phoenix, that's just to name some of them. And if you look at it, this is what this trigger looks like. And it's the one that's got the safety curve that goes back towards the trigger, and it's a fatter blade. So what we're going to do is we're going to get right into the details of how to tune this. Out of the box, this is close 4 to 5 pound trigger, but I'm going to show you how to turn it into a match-like trigger. So pay attention, watch this, and then we'll come back at the end and wrap it up. So
okay, first process in wanting to tune this trigger is accessing it. And you're going to need to remove the stock. I'm just going to go real quick. You got a screw here you got to unscrew behind the trigger. And then you got a screw on either side here. And I'm not going to go through the entire process of the stock just because if you can't remove the stock, you shouldn't be messing with this trigger. Hey, a little hint, take the bolts out, take them completely out. Now obviously put those in a spot where you're not going to lose them, but it makes it much easier when you're going to put the stock back on if you have these bolts completely out. All right, let's get down to our trigger. Okay, this is our, what they call our clean brake trigger here. Let's get down here so you can focus on this just a little bit. Okay, this is our clean brake trigger. And if you'll see, there's a C-clip here. There's also a C-clip here. So our goal here is we're going to want to take this apart. We'll probably swap out the spring and we'll do a little polishing. And I'm going to show you the process. First thing you're going to need to do is take this little clip out. I like to get a little screwdriver and then gently pull this off, because you don't want that clip to go flying. And then make sure you put that in a secure location. I have one of these magnetic type trays. We take that first clip off, and then you're going to push this pin out, this pin right here, just like that. So the pin comes loose. And then you just pull your trigger assembly out. That's it. So let's set this off to the side here. Now you can see in here, let's see if I can zoom down in here, see if you guys get it. You've got, this is what your trigger rests on. So we're actually going to want to polish this. This is like an upper sear part, the mechanism. And if you lift this up, you're going to see your spring, and this is your spring right here. And they put a pretty heavy spring in there. So we're going to take that spring out. Next thing we need to do is, if you'll notice, there's a lot of resistance on this. And what they do, they used to not do this, but they put a couple of washers on either side here. But it creates a real tight process here, and that can definitely affect your trigger pull. So we're going to take this apart, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do with these pieces. So the next part, this little front safety piece, keep an eye on how the spring is on here. See how the spring is? It hooks behind here. So we're just going to disconnect this little spring just like that. You see how it goes? That easy. Okay, so now flip this over. Let's pop the other clip out right here. And again, you just want to kind of go gentle because you don't want this clip flying all over the place. So there's your other clip. We'll go ahead and secure that, put that in our magnetic pole. Then we're going to go ahead and push this pin outward. Now keep in mind, just so you know how this goes back together, you've got a washer here, and you've got a washer here. And then this is part of your trigger assembly. But we're going to polish the back side of this because this is what rides up against the trigger blade itself. So let's pull this pin here. Okay, pin comes out. And safety bar comes out. Now watch this. This is, like I said, this is wedged in there pretty good, so you guys can see an angle. So you got a washer again on either side. So we want to pull this out just like that. And we want to get our two washers. Okay, so here's all the pieces you should have for your trigger. You should have your trigger blade. You've got your pin that holds it in. You've got your magnetic screwdriver here. Anyway, you've got your spring. You got your upper sear, which is actually just part of the trigger assembly. You've got your two washers and your safety. So let's move the safety, this pin. We're going to move this all out of the way. The spring and the two clips. Okay, so what you're going to concentrate on is you're going to want to polish the inside of the trigger right here, right along here. This is where it makes contact with this other part right here. And then you're going to want to take this part. This looks like a giant duckbill if you look at that. Right? Giant duckbill. You're going to want to polish this part right on top because this trigger actually rests on this, and when you're pulling the trigger, these actually make contact, and this actually makes moves on this. So you want that to be as smooth as possible. So we want to polish those two pieces. And then these two washers, they're a little too thick. So what we're going to do is we're going to get some wet and dry out, and we're going to polish those two washers. So let's start with the two washers. Okay, what we're going to do is I got a little 220 wet and dry. We're going to polish our washers. We're going to do both sides of these, just so you know. So we just start out. You're going to rub these. Okay, and you're going to polish them a lot. You're going to get that finish off, and you're going to get them real smooth. What we're trying to do is we're trying to narrow the thickness of these a little bit so there's less resistance. Okay, so washers first, you're going to do both of those. Okay, so we got these sanded down, and then you're probably going to want to ultimately polish those. We'll do those at the end. Now keep in mind, these are in the newer clean brake triggers, the washers. They used to not put those in there. They used to just have this upper portion, and it would be a little sloppy in there. So if yours does not have the two washers, don't worry about it. Just skip this step, and then you'll go into the next step. And the next step is we're going to polish this. We're going to polish the back edge of this. If you want to run a little wet and dry, but then I'm going to probably run a Dremel on it. But our next one is we're going to polish this. So let's show you how to do that. This piece, when it's actually assembled, it sits in between these two washers. So there's a washer on either side of it like this. See if you guys can focus on that. So there's a washer on either side of it. So that is how it functions. Let's see if I can show you here. There you go. Okay, so you actually have a washer on either side of this. And it's pinched in there pretty hard, so what we're trying to do is make this move a little more freely. So what we can do in addition to polishing these washers and actually reducing them in size a little bit is we can smooth this piece out. We're going to do the same thing with our wet and dry. We're just going to go this direction, and we're going to get this nice and smooth. And then you're going to flip it over, and you're going to do this side as well. Nice and smooth. All right, let me knock this out and I'll show you the result. Okay, so we did our initial, these pieces here with our 220, and then I like to move up to like maybe 600, then 800, and then ultimately end up with like 1,000. And what you're going to do is just continue polishing these. And right now, this area right here, I'm not so much concerned about. It's the sides that are going to pinch between those washers. I want this to be nice and smooth. And then obviously we're going to work on this top edge too. So go ahead and run all these now through, maybe a 600, 800, and then up to like 1,000. So I'll show you the results of that. So as you can see, we're done with the wet and dry process. So these are polished on both sides because again, this is going to go in between here. So we want that least resistance as possible. But we're not done polishing yet. Our next step is the Dremel. So we're going to take a Dremel and we're going to we'll shine both of these sides. We'll polish them up really good. And then we're going to polish the back edge of this right along here. It's where the trigger makes contact. And then we're also going to polish right down in this area right here. Because this is actually, this little pivot point right here makes contact with that. So the smoother that is, the smoother the trigger is going to be. So I'm going to go ahead and polish these and I'll come back and show you the results. But it's, yeah, Dremel right here and then on these pieces as well. So I'll show you the result. All right, these are what your finished product should look like. So you've got your upper sear. This ridge here is polished really nice and smooth. You got your washers. And again, I'll mention this again at the end. These washers are newer to the trigger group. These are something that they've added in more recent years to tighten up the trigger. But you need the contact points that rest against this piece here. They need to be nice and smooth, and I'll show you that. Also, as you can see, we polished this area in here because this is the part that's going to make contact with this. Okay, so this area here is going to be actually more like this. This contact right in this area here. So this needs to be nice and smooth. Okay, now I'm going to show you the easy way to get this assembly back in. Okay, one thing I need to cover is the spring in here. So here's the stock spring. You guys can see this is a stock spring. Very, very heavy. So what I thought we would do is we would enter a 0.6 by 7 by 20. This is a 0.6 by 7 by 20. If you notice, the diameter is very similar. This one is just a little longer, but this has a, the side of the spring is a 7 rather than the thicker one. So it's going to be just a little bit lighter. You can see that compared to this. So it's going to take some weight off the trigger. This one is really, really heavy. This one is a little lighter. Again, that's a 0.6 by 7 by 20 millimeter. And that's what we're going to go ahead and replace the stock spring with. So let me show you how to assemble this thing now. I'll show you a little trick. All right, real quick, let me show you something. When this is reassembled, and I'm going to show you how to reassemble this, but this top part, this is top part of your shear engagement. Your trigger is going to push on this. This thing should free fall. See like this? See how there's no resistance on it? This thing should refall. Out of the box, this thing would barely even move. But since we polished those ends, this thing free falls down. That's what you want. You want this thing to be nice and smooth and to free fall. Okay, I'm going to show you now how to put this assembly together real quick. Okay, now we're going to put this assembly back. If you'll notice, this is the longer of the pins compared to the shorter ones. Shorter one goes with the trigger actually. This is the one that goes with the safety in this front mechanism. Okay, what you're going to want to do is you're going to put a little grease on this side, and on this side. I use a little lithium grease. Then you're going to take the shiny portion of the washer, the shiny portion, and you're going to put it on that side. Then you're going to put a little more grease on this side. You're going to put the shiny portion on this side, and then you're going to line it up. So see, the grease has the washer sticking on that. So what's going to happen here is our safety needs to go in, and you're going to know the part with the little notches here, right here, that's going to go where our spring is here. So we're going to set that there. You're going to use a little screwdriver, and obviously you've got our gun off to the side. We'll get that just lined up like this. And then we'll get this in here like this. A little wiggle. Okay. So see, this is all lined up now, as you can see. Completely lined up. Again, we want this to be able to free fall. Okay? We don't want any resistance on this. But now that we're lined up, we can take our pin right here and follow the screwdriver back through. just like that. See that? So we got our screwdriver. Now we have our pin lined up. Clip on the end. We lock that in just like that. Okay, now we want to take our trigger and we choose, as we said before, we chose a nice spring for it. We're going to take the spring, going to line this up. It's like this. A little notch right here. That's for your spring guide. See this? Okay, there's your spring guide, just like that. Okay, what we're going to want is we're going to want a little lubricant on this trigger. Okay, so we got our trigger. We put a little lubricant in it. Rub a little lubricant on this upper portion. And seriously, we just set this on top of here. We push this down. And now we're going to take our other pin. This is the smaller pin. I like to put a dab of lubricant on it as well. And we're going to push this through just like this and line up that hole. So see, that pin came through just like that. So again, looking at it from the top, looking at it from the side. So we need to put our clip on this piece as well. So let's push that clip in. Just like that. Then again, our safety catch here. The bottom portion goes behind the tab over here. Just like this. So now your safety works here. So you got here and here. So you see that wire? So caught behind the tab here, and then this piece sits in the two notches, so you have safe on, safe off. That's it. So safe is off there. Again, this is your trigger now. Moves nice and freely. Now there is a bottom sear in here. Honestly, it really doesn't make any difference whether you polish this one or not. This is what catches on to the piston when it comes back and the sear engages it. It does not make a big difference. To me, it's not worth the hassle. If you just do the upper portion like I showed you, it's going to be all the difference in the world. So let's show you how this performs now. But you can see we got good tension on this, a lot lighter than it was before. You got your safety here. So we're good to go. So let's throw the gun back together. You guys know how to put the stock on. If you don't know how to put the stock on, you shouldn't even be messing with the trigger. But let's go ahead and show you the performance now. I want you guys to pay attention. When I test this trigger, I want you to watch how light the first stage is, and then it hits a wall, and then I want you to see the weight of what it actually breaks at. So check this out. This should be interesting. Because I haven't tested it for actual weight. I've just tested it as far as performance, and I like it. So watch this. So you see it creep back? Did you see that? I'm going to show you that again. See that? See it come back? There, right there to the wall. Then you get a little bit more pressure. And it breaks at 1 pound, 8.8 ounces. 1 pound, 8.8 ounces. I have to tell you, I would call it equivalent to a match grade type trigger now. And it's not that difficult to do. Like I said, it's going to take about an hour. So there you go. 1 pound, 8 ounces. You got to love it. This is now a match style trigger. You just cannot believe the performance difference when you're actually shooting it. It really makes a huge difference. But don't forget, any modification that you do, that's at your own risk. If you violate the manufacturer's warranty, that's between you and the manufacturer. So don't be sending me messages that I'm stuck, I don't know how to do this. I gave you a video for it. You do it at your own risk and move forward. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope to bring some different ones to you from time to time just to help you out with stuff like this. So once again, don't forget, this is where we take the mystery out of the air gun. Until next time, I hope you and your families are getting plenty of shooting in. Everybody's healthy and doing well. So take care and God bless.